On today's show, Kristaps Porzingis gets traded, then he doesn't, then he does get traded to the Boston Celtics. Marcus Smart goes to the Grizzlies. What did the Wizards get? We'll talk about that and the draft and more on today's Locked On NBA. Let's go.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome. You are locked on to the NBA on draft day. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Be an everydayer. Subscribe and follow for free. Just search Locked On NBA wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let us know in the comment section, who's your team and who do you want them to draft? Give me name of team and player. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA and they'll throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti-style tumbler. Got to put that coffee in it with every order. Joining me, as always, on a Thursday, host of Locked On Bulls. What you got for me? No draft pick, Pat the Designer.
Marcus Smart finna be in Memphis like, it's a flop inside my city, yay!
It's an ill-advised 3 inside my city. Oh, my gosh. We got a lot to talk about today. We'll, of course, talk about the trade with Porzingis, Marcus Smart, Tyus Jones going to the Wizards. Who made out the best in this trade? What happened to the deal that was we thought was all done? I'm glad we didn't record earlier. We waited until about midnight Central Time right now to record this episode. We'll talk about that a little bit. The Clippers just completely out of it. And then, of course, we'll play Count It Up, where we talk about those interesting, fun things in the NBA, including, listen, Brandon Miller may be the second pick in the draft, but don't ask him who his GOAT is. Nobody gets to ask him that anymore. We'll talk about Damian Lillard and then Devin Booker and super teams in Count It Up a little bit later. But let's start here, Pat. The trade. Kristaps Porzingis goes from the Washington Wizards, picks up that $36 million player option, gets traded to the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics also get the 25th pick from the Memphis Grizzlies, so that's this draft, so they now have a first-round pick in this draft. They also have Golden State's 2024 first-round pick that comes from Memphis as well. Memphis gets Marcus Smart, and Washington gets Tyus Jones, the 35th pick from Boston in this draft, so a high second-round pick. They also get Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala as salary filler. Initial reaction to the trade with Boston and Porzingis.
I think this is a good pickup for Boston. I think he fits what they want to do. I think he moves well enough without the ball to be able to get himself into a good position offensively. Defensively, he's not going to help you much, but okay, we'll see kind of how that works.
I'll push back on that because I've watched KP a lot. Yeah, I think he became a pretty decent rim protector at the end. He's not going to be your elite. He's not going to be Jaren Jackson.
He'll be able to block shots.
He'll block some shots. He'll defend the pick and roll and a drop pretty well. Like, I think he became he wasn't for a while there in Dallas, but he found his way in Jason Kidd's system there. I thought in Washington, I thought he was fine too. They play him at 4 and 5, but I agree that this is a pretty good pickup for them.
I like Boston getting it, KP. I think first off, the biggest thing is the fact they also got 2 first-round picks. We'll talk about that as well. But to me, KP is a guy that just moves well enough for this offense to continue to flow similar to what it did with the pieces you've moved out of there. I'm assuming Malcolm Brogdon, if healthy, moves into your starting lineup. So I think this is an offense that'll run pretty well. And to me, here's all I hope. My hope with all of this is KP has found a home. To me, I see how he fits in with this team. I see how offensively they can utilize him. I think this allows him kind of to be able to get back to where I guess New York is a really long time ago, even though he's only been in the league like 6 years.
I think he made 2017 was his all-star year. I mean, we're talking that's pre-pandemic. That's pre-bubble. That's how many things?
It's insane.
Was Barack the president? I think Barack was president last time he was good.
I feel like pandemic really makes us think it's way longer than it is, but it's still a long time. But I think a lot of the teams he's gone to, right, he's been that guy that they've said, we need you to shoot this 3 ball a lot for the modern NBA. And I think a little bit more with Boston. Boston will be able to utilize him and say, we need you down in the post. We need you back to the basket. Shoot the 3 ball and utilize it as much as you can. But we've got 3-point shooters on this team already. We've got guys that can knock down the 3 ball. We need you to be a big man. I think that fits a little bit more of what Kristaps is probably going to be better suited to do at this point in his career. And I still like the move for Boston. I hope that KP finds his forever home as a Boston Celtic and he fits in with this team, and we can finally stop talking about that team not getting it done.
I think Porzingis is a player that just always is going to keep moving because he's like a tantalizing talent. And then when you get him in here, he's like the boyfriend or the girlfriend that you see and you're like, man, if only I was with them. And then you're with them and you see like, you move in and then you're like, oh dang, they like leave a bunch of hair in the drain. Or like there's just a couple of things that they're super sloppy. You're like, you're very annoyed by something. And like from the outside, everybody's like, oh, you guys must be so happy. And then inside you're like, I don't know. And I think he'll just always end up being that. But I think he is a good pickup for the Celtics because there were times last year in the playoffs where I was watching this team and Tatum wasn't having the best games. Jaylen Brown was turning the ball over because he was trying to go left. And like, I thought Al Horford was their best player at times in that run. And that's not sustainable. He's 37 years old. Like, he was very good for them. Did a lot of things, made them who they are, I think, because of how versatile he is. He can space the floor. He could rebound. He could defend in space. He could defend at the rim. Like, he could just do so many different things for them. And that's not going to last forever. They needed to move on from that. Porzingis gives you elements of that can move on. Also, Robert Williams wasn't reliable enough. You joked with me. You said, why would the Mavericks want Robert Williams when I was saying the Mavs should get in on this? He doesn't play enough. Well, Porzingis in his career has not played a lot either. He played a lot last season. And it's been fairly not that injury prone as of late. But maybe Robert Williams and Porzingis gives you enough games played like that fills out your center rotation. So they needed to do something with that center rotation, needed to make some kind of move. Porzingis, by the way, becomes the highest paid Celtic, which is kind of wild to think about because of he's in the last year of his max deal that the Mavs gave him. But they needed to do something.
Bobby Marks talked about it on Twitter. He tweeted this out a few minutes ago. He said that he could sign up to a 2-year, $77 million extension starting July 6th.
So we'll see starting July 6th what the Celtics intend to do. Do they expect that Porzingis will be on the team for a while, or do they want to bring him in as a 1-year deal and then say, hey, we're going to cut ties because we're up against it. We're up against the second apron and the salary cap and all that because Jaylen Brown's big extension could be coming soon. And, a lot of our guys are going to be, are going to be off the books after 2 years. So like they have some big decisions to make with their guys. So I'm curious to see what that is, but I do like this pickup. You mentioned before, they get the 25th pick in this draft. So they move up from 35 to 25. They also get Golden State's 2024 pick, which I don't know, Steph Curry's getting up there in age. Draymond signing another deal.
It'll be fine.
It could go sideways, or it could just be like a pick in the 20s, which is that's fine too. But
you got another pick, and you traded away the healthiest player of the bunch.
In a vacuum, I think they win this deal. They gave up Marcus Smart and the 35th pick for Porzingis, the 25th pick, and a 2024 Golden State first round pick. Like that, that's a really good haul for the Celtics.
No, I agree. I thought the Celtics. It's hilarious to me, right, that Brad Stevens basically picked right up where Danny Ainge left off. But the one thing that he does, and that he's kind of done in multiple years, is like, we got to figure out how to get a big man with these guys. When the thing that we always complained about Danny Ainge for was, would you get them a center? Just get them someone tall. I like that. I like that Brad Stevens understands kind of what this team does need. I think the point guard position was something where Marcus Smart is great. You love to have him, but if you have Malcolm Brogdon, if you feel like Malcolm Brogdon is going to be healthy, you don't have these concerns. Maybe other teams did. Clippers backed out of this deal because of those injury concerns. But if you feel like he's healthy enough to be that starting point, okay, you've got that, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. We still need that big man that's going to be that young guy that's going to be out there. I don't know if Porzingis is the guy that's always going to be out there, but he did have a healthy season. I mean, like those first years on new teams does not go well, right? First year on Washington, I believe he played 17 games. I think first year with the Mavs, he played 45.
Well, he sat out the rest of Luka's rookie year with an injury, and then came out and play. He played okay in that first year. But the one question I have now for the Celtics is, okay, Marcus Smart is gone. He had become your de facto point guard at times. Can Marcus Smart just fall into that role? This whole trade with the Clippers and the 3-team trade with Clippers and Washington and Boston fell apart because there's rumors that Brogdon may need elbow surgery. Like, is that concern you? Now all of a sudden it's kind of, if Brogdon is missing some time, it's Derek White and that's it. And the 25th pick, like, can you bring in a maybe like a Jalen Hood-Schifino falls to 25? Like, you're not really there. Nick Smith from Arkansas is probably the one point guard type player, and even he's like a combo guy. Like, there's not really good options right there. Peyton Pritchard moving up. Like, they need to make a move on some kind of guard because they needed that, I think, before this because of Brogdon's injury, and now it's a big question. But coming up, let's get into Washington and Memphis' side of this. Memphis getting Marcus Smart. Is this an upgrade from Dillon Brooks? I was waiting for your reaction because I knew you were going to say yes. We'll talk about that and more coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs has you covered. They have stretch khaki shorts that are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly, and I say this, truly sculpted look. I would not be what you call a sculpted person, but I put these Bird Dogs on, and let me tell you.
I swear to God, if you stand up.
I don't have them on. I don't have them on right now. I don't have them on right now. Bird Dogs uses anti-sweat stink wicking fabric. I don't know what it wicks, but it's there. That keeps you dry and cool all day long. Go check them out at birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. Again, for a free Yeti-style tumbler. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. Go check it out. They have all kinds of other stuff, pants, joggers, things like that. Again, check it out, birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA, being part of the show, supporting the network. We will have a live Locked On NBA draft show hosted by myself and Leaf Tulane of Locked On NBA Big Board. Maybe Pat will drop by. Maybe other people will drop in. It's a live show. It's a hangout, so we'll have a bunch of hosts across the network, and they'll be able to hang out and talk. And then we'll also post clips all across the network to your favorite show. We have a show that covers your team every day, 5 days a week, all throughout the offseason and more. So click the link in the description to find the show that covers your team. I host Locked On Mavericks. Pat hosts Locked On Bulls. We got all you covered. All right, we're talking about the Porzingis, Tyus Jones, Marcus Smart trade. Let's look at it from the Memphis Grizzlies side of things. Memphis Grizzlies get Marcus Smart. They give up the 25th pick in this draft and the Warriors pick that they owned in 2024. What are your initial thoughts on the Grizzlies getting Marcus Smart, who now seems to be the upgrade from Dillon Brooks that they wanted?
Smart to me is, I'm trying to figure out how he fits in well with Ja when Ja does come back. That's the reason you're giving up the draft capital, by the way. I'm not trying to add to this team draft pick wise. I'm trying to add to this team veteran player, veteran experience, win now mindset. I've got Ja Morant. I've got Jaren Jackson. I've got these guys. I love the Jaren Jackson pick and roll with Marcus Smart aspect, especially defensively. I quote tweeted you when you drop that. There's going to be a lot of fouls in the first half, but the fourth quarter defense is going to be solid. If they can stay in this game in the first half, that fourth quarter defense will be amazing.
Try to run a 1-5 pick and roll with those guys guarding. I mean, that's going to be
it's going to be trouble. It's going to be trouble. And I think that Marcus Smart is a really good piece. I think he's a piece that is He's the piece that understands where the grit and the edge needs to end.
And the grind.
I think that Ja Morant hasn't figured that out just yet. Hopefully after 25 games he will. I know that Dillon Brooks hadn't figured that out just yet. And I mean, realistically, you found your Dillon Brooks replacement, like you said. I think that Marcus Smart is a good pickup. I think I don't know if he's an over the top. I don't know if he makes them a championship level team, right? The question marks on that is going to be, is Jaren Jackson going to be able to stay out of foul trouble in these important games? Is Ja Morant going to be able to stay on the court for these important games? Those are the things that I think relay out in that aspect of it. But I think that he's a good pickup. I don't know if it's a 1-for-1 swap. Marcus Smart's a better player than Dillon Brooks, but it is a good. It's a It's a top replacement. It's the best replacement scenario I probably could have picked for the Memphis Grizzlies.
You're also going from Dillon Brooks and Tyus Jones to Marcus Smart. And in that sense of it, I agree with you that he's an upgrade over Dillon Brooks, that he's a better defender, more level-headed. Is this the word that I would say, which for Marcus Smart is like...
Yeah, I'd say more level-headed.
But like, you normally wouldn't say that about Marcus Smart things. He's going to have a better impact on the offense. I think he's got a better handle. Is going to be a much better playmaker for them. But they're also losing Tyus Jones, which makes me concerned about their guard depth and also their like playmaking. If Ja's going to miss all those games, you had Tyus Jones as the backup. He was probably one of the most overqualified backups in the league. Yeah. And now you go to Marcus Smart and Desmond Bane as your guard, like your guard room there. And I feel okay about that. Like they're okay to run that. But then when Ja comes back, are you running Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, and Marcus Smart together? That's the question. Because then all of a sudden it becomes a pretty small little rotation there. And I'm not sure that you're going to do that and feel super good about it playing against some other teams. But you can definitely do worse than those three. But that's my question is, do they start running all three of those guys together all the time?
I think you almost have to at times.
You do have
especially when realistically, right, here's the thing. Defensively, I like that lineup. I mean, there's not a lot of teams that are running just straight 6'9" guys, 4'6". Like against the Orlando Magic, they may have some trouble, right? But I'm not worried about the Magic making it to an NBA Finals anytime soon.
But like if they're playing if they're playing the Nuggets, who's guarding Porter Jr.? Is it Desmond Bane?
Here's the tough part about
you know
that,
what I
mean? So
who's guarding Paul George? Is it Marcus Smart?
So here's the thing. Realistically, in that scenario, in the opposite scenario, you have the same question because who's guarding these guys is Dillon Brooks. And Dillon Brooks didn't do well against them.
Yeah, he's still like 4 inches bigger than Marcus Smart. Like at least you had some size, but now you lose that is what I'm saying.
Now you look worse if Michael Porter Jr. just shoots over the top of you. It's like your hand was there. He just dropped you off. No, I don't believe that. It's not to say that Dillon Brooks is the worst player in the NBA. I'm not sitting here telling y'all that, but what I'm telling you is that the size to me or the impact doesn't change that much by adding in Marcus Smart and replacing him with Dillon Brooks. I don't think Memphis is done by any means. This doesn't mean that they're not going to add another defender that can add some size to the team, or free agency is still out there, right? I mean, I guess they don't have a draft pick to go do it now, but I'm okay with what Memphis did in this situation. And I think defensively it will work out more times than not.
We were also concerned about them during the playoffs with their shooting. Remember, their big revelation in the playoffs this year was putting in Luke Kennard. Like Luke Kennard coming in, and all of a sudden, they're not going to run Ja, Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, and Luke Kennard, right? Are you going to run that? All of a sudden, you're really small. So you've still got some questions there for them. But I think it is a good pickup. It's obviously an upgrade from Dillon Brooks, and then you're moving on from Tyus Jones. You expected to move on from him either. It's weird. Tyus Jones and 2 first-round picks from Marcus Smart doesn't seem like a great trade for me, especially knowing you're going to lose Dillon Brooks because they're not going to bring him back under any circumstances, what they said. But it is what it is at this point. Let's talk about the Wizards side of this, though. The Wizards get Tyus Jones, who's on a 1-year deal. He's 27 years old. He's older than I realized he was. To me, I thought he was like 25, 20, like 20, he's 27. And yeah, Trey Jones is his younger brother for the Spurs. They also get the 35th pick in this draft, so a high second, which they love their seconds for their max level players. The Wizards roster right now is this: Chris Paul, who's probably going to be gone, Tyus Jones, Monte Morris, DeLon Wright. That's a pretty good guard rotation right there. Landry Shamet, Danilo Gallinari, Denny Avdia, Johnny Davis, Corey Kispert, Daniel Gafford, Mike Muscala, Anthony Gill, Xavier Cooks. They've got the 8th pick. They've got the 35th pick. And here they are. Mission accomplished?
I don't know if I can play that. I like that, but I just did.
There was an echo. There's an echo in that makes it sound like it's in the room with you. Like it doesn't sound like it's coming from a soundboard. It makes it sound like it's bellowing in the room with you somewhere.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you this right now. The Wizards' mission accomplished. We want to suck. You did it. There's no chance that. Wow. Whoo. That's
Zion Williamson and porn star.
You know what I mean? I thought
her account got deactivated. By the way.
Oh, did it now? Wow.
Adam Silver called up the league. The Pelicans called up. Gail Benson's like, excuse me, can you connect me to Elon Musk?
It's crazy that harassment is frowned upon in the world.
Who would have thought?
But no, I just that you accomplished what you wanted to accomplish. I'm gonna be honest with you. Tyus Jones is probably gone mid-season, right? You're trying to trade
the Tyus Jones move is he's gunning for. He's gonna average like 22 and 8, and he's gonna get his deal. Like he's gonna try to get his long-term deal.
You're keeping him?
I mean, I guess they can try to trade him.
There's no way I'd keep him in this scenario because to me, 1-year deal. I'm bringing him in. I brought him in basically to try and lose. We're gonna lose anyway. It's not that he's bad. It's just that I'm going to lose you for nothing. He's not gonna want to stay
unless they're the Wizards and give him a deal that no one else would give him, which they gave to Bradley Beal and they gave to several other players.
Yeah, but they gave it to Bradley Beal because they were literally the only team that can give Bradley Beal that deal. And Bradley Beal was a guy that could put up 30 points a night whenever he felt like it when he was healthy.
What if they get a first for Tyus Jones and they didn't get one for Beal or Porzingis? That would be hilarious to me.
That would be funny. I'm not going to lie to you, but it's based on their own. Now, the Beal contract is only bad because of the no trade clause that much better players didn't get.
He's making $57 million in like 3 years. I mean, the money's bad too.
He doesn't play for them anymore. If you were going to move him anyway, I could deal with that. You know what I mean? The only part that screws you over is the fact that I gave him a no trade clause, so I had to send him to the team he wanted to go to. I could have sent them up to Detroit for Koo to talk about him, and they could have sent me half of their roster. Like, you know,
I forgot a contract becomes less bad when you trade it away, and you're like, oh, we don't have to deal with it anymore.
Yeah, you got to deal with it.
That's the Suns' problem. That's Isaiah Thomas's problem. He's Littlefinger in the ear of Matt Ishbia. All right, coming up, let's get into our favorite game every week, where we count all the most interesting, fun things in the NBA, including Brandon Miller is asked about his GOAT, and oh boy. I'm going to play the audio because I just did not believe it when I heard it. We'll talk about that and more coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about eBay Motors. eBay Motors knows that just like in the draft, every player has to fit right. It has to fit with what your team is trying to do, culture, all kinds of stuff. It has to fit. Just like when it comes to the parts in your vehicle. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure that every part you need fits just right, or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence, baby, confidence is the name of the game when you shop at eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only. Exclusions, they do apply. All right, Pat. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA. We will have a live draft show on this channel, wherever you're listening to this on YouTube. And so stick with us. Myself and Leaf Tulane will host a show. Locked On NBA hosts will join. We've got 5 hosts at the draft. I love that. Rafael Barlow is there. Richard Stayman from NBA Big Board is there. Jackson Gatlin of Locked On NBA and Locked On Rockets will be there. Adam Armbrecht of Locked On Nets and Jeff Garcia of Locked On Spurs are all at the draft in New York. Love that. But for right now, let's play our favorite game.
Count it up, count it up, count it up, count it.
Where we count the most interesting, fun things in the NBA, including this week. It was the NBA draft. It is the NBA draft. And at the NBA draft, if you've never been there, they just have these media events where there's just players sitting at like a booth, like a table with a tablecloth, and they're just sitting there, and media can just come up and talk to them. Adam Armbrecht was telling me about how he was going up and asking people about, asking players about certain things. And it's just like a free-for-all. And so Brandon Miller is sitting there at this table. Looks like he's like at a job fair, like trying to like pitch people on come to work for me, Brandon Miller Associates. And all of a sudden, notorious NBA reporter who has blocked me on Twitter for whatever reason, Scoop B, comes up and asks this question, and count it up. What's more out of pocket, the line of questioning or Paul George, or the mention that Brandon Miller gives as his GOAT?
Brandon, you said you were wearing black and red at the draft, right? Jordan wore black and red as a member of the Bulls.
Wait, hold on. Fact check that. Is that true?
Michael Jordan, in fact, wore red and black as a member of the Bulls. By the way, I'm glad to know that this guy blocks you because you're a better person for having experienced that. Because when I heard this question, it was one of the dumbest questions I've ever heard in my entire life. We are all dumber for having to listen to this moment.
And I'm going to make
you are
everyone...
awarded. You are awarded no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I'm making everybody else dumber just by listening. So he makes the connection with the clothes. Great.
Here's my question, unrelated to that. You're young.
How is it?
Older people, young people often have this LeBron and Michael conversation.
Why is he pausing?
The greatest because that's old. But because you've been in Michael's presence and because you grew up liking LeBron, as a young person, do you feel like that conversation is just overdone?
No, because I actually don't think LeBron is, the go to basketball. I think my go to basketball is Paul George. And, I always grew up watching him, so it's never just LeBron.
My GOAT of basketball is Paul George. It's not LeBron. Brandon Miller was born in 2000, and it keeps going. 2002. But Paul George is his GOAT. Count it up. I can't even get to the drop.
Count it up.
Count it up. What's more out of pocket, the line of questioning from Scoop or Brandon Miller's answer?
Question for sure. The question is one of the worst questions I've ever heard in my life. I mean, he basically was just like, so sometimes when you watch basketball, you don't want to hear them questions. So I'm not going to ask that question. But my question is not that question. So anyway.
The colors got me. He started, when you're wearing red and black.
When you wear red and black.
Michael Jordan wore red.
In Compton.
Not a
And then Michael Jordan is in New Orleans. And sometimes he buy gumbo. Do you get the gumbo with a red roux or a dark roux? What's your choice? Who's your GOAT? That's basically what we got out of that. Brandon Miller's answer doesn't bother me because he was born in 2002. LeBron was drafted in 2003. He probably didn't start really paying attention to basketball until what?
13 years after that. Yeah, like 10, 13 years after that.
10, 11? So, I can see why you, are looking at different players outside of LeBron, especially if you're not a diehard LeBron fan. The question is way worse. I almost died because I listened to this while driving, and I just closed my eyes to try and figure out how I could understand what he just asked him.
Hilarious, just a hilarious line of questioning with that, and then his Paul George answer. To me, the Paul George answer, which is gonna get a lot of attention, is this. Brendan Clean of Locked On Suns, host Locked On NBA sometimes, told me this. He said, "This is classic an agent or somebody that's prepping Brandon Miller for the draft. Just told him anytime you're asked about a player in the NBA, talk about Paul George and his game because your comp is Paul George. So talk about him anytime." And so he just went full on politician, canned answer, and just hey, LeBron, a lot of people think he's the GOAT, but I really think he just tried to spin it into something about him that's positive, and he just completely did not. It did not work.
It didn't work.
The reason why Scooby was asking Brandon Miller about Paul George is because Michael Jordan was there for a workout with him and Scoot Henderson recently. Hornets GM Mitch Kupchak said recently, he said that he will make the draft picks, but Michael Jordan is still in control of the team through draft and free agency. He will have the final say in decisions.
Count it up.
How much confidence do you have in an owner who is on the way out? He's actively selling the team. Give me a 0 to 5 as somebody that knows the GOAT as well as you do.
I'm going to give you a 2.5 because...
Right in the middle.
Because Michael's not going to want to go out with his last pick being a terrible pick because that will still be attached to his name. And he's...
the legacy has been cemented there. It's
for sure, but it's one of the most competitive things. But realistically, right, if I leave you with one of the best draft picks you've had since, I don't know, LaMelo Ball, and these are the last couple of picks that I remember for. Oh, by the way, that big man that I drafted down there, he's pretty good too, paired with LaMelo Ball. You know what I mean? The last three picks, if Michael goes out and he's like, my last three picks were amazing and it's the cornerstone of this franchise, I think that I give it a 2.5, but the reason I don't give him a 5 is because there's a lot of bad to go with it. I'm 80% sure somebody from North Carolina might end up on the Charlotte Hornets.
give me a 2 on this one. He's leaving. I can't imagine putting in
he
the
doesn't
same.
Not care though.
Has he cared before?
He'll yeah, for sure. He's made the wrong decision 110%. I'm not going to tell you that.
They've also just been unlucky. They had Kid Gilchrist in the Anthony Davis draft. They had Mecca Okafor in the Dwight Howard draft. Like the Hornets have just been unlucky with their picks here.
It's poor scouting.
Well, no, they picked right below a franchise level player. They just happened to have the wrong pick in that draft. But anyway,
let's look at some of the names after those names.
The rumors around the rumors around Damian Lillard have been insanely dumb. If you listen to Locked On NBA earlier this week with Jake Madison and John Krause, they went in on a rumor that talked about Bam Adebayo, the Blazers making this big run and trade for Bam Adebayo. There's also all kinds of rumors about the Heat wanting to go after Damian Lillard. It seems like a game of chicken where Matt Moore, Locked On NBA, Locked On Nuggets host, talked about on Twitter. He said, there seems to be one faction of reporters that's reporting the Blazers side that are like, hey, we're not trading this guy. We're doing this. Dame's side of it saying, hey, I may ask out if you guys don't put a team around me, a la what LeBron does. My question is with this game of chicken now.
Count it up.
What are we closer to? A Dame trade or just Dame staying in Portland forever?
I'm closer to I really just don't care anymore. Because at this point,
just done, just opting out.
Because here's the thing. Damian Lillard is the ultimate pump fake, but he's also going to go on every podcast in America and talk about why he should be in these conversations with these elite level players. Damian Lillard is an amazing player. He is an elite player. He is a dominant point guard in the NBA, but Damian Lillard wants to be in Portland. You want to know what doesn't want to be in Portland? The rest of the freaking NBA. No one's going to Portland. Either leave or stop talking about it. Your legacy will be you are a great Blazer. You will always be a great Blazer. You will be above the Clyde Drexlers and the Brandon Roys and all of those great names that are out there. But if you're not leaving, stop talking about what people really don't put me in this conversation. We can have this conversation and this ain't what the NBA is. You want to be there. If you want to be there, be there. Quit whining. They won't put a team around me. No one's coming. You know what you got? Jeremy Grant.
Making $120 million coming up here.
Like, I don't care anymore because there's no player in NBA history that said, you know where I'm really trying to sign this season? Portland. You know when players sign in Portland? When no one else is calling. I'm done with Dame. He's great. He's amazing. He will always be one of the most underrated point guards in every conversation that will be brought up. But I don't care if he wants to be there because every offseason we have this same dumb conversation about everyone. Is he going to go there? Is he going to go there? Is he going to go there? And you know what he does? He plays 45 games the next season, gets hurt, can come back, but then Portland says, we're going to shut him down because we don't want to win games. I'm done with it.
Tell me how you really feel.
I'm sick of it, dog. I'm so sick of it.
Goodness. There you go.
Count it up.
Count it up.
Join us on the Locked On NBA live feed as we cover the draft live. I'll be hosting with Leaf Tulane of Locked On NBA Big Board with all the draft stuff. The hosts will be jumping in and out. And to come back tomorrow, Wes Goldberg and Richard Stamen or myself will be on Locked On NBA to break down the draft and all that happens. I'm ready for the craziness, the chaos. Give it to me. We'll do that tomorrow. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA.
Bye-bye.
Boom!